Yuki! काय करतोयस तू? Hi boy. Yes, I know you're excited to meet me after I've come back from school.
Was it a tiring day today, Arya? I can just, see from your face. Are you mentally exhausted?
Hoy, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you face mental fatigue as soon as you think about school. So going to
Exactly.
school is like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hey, let's go upstairs to the home theater. Let's go watch something cool.
Yeah, let's take your mind off things. What do you want to watch?
I don't know, movie or a show or something. Yuki, what do you want to watch?
I think that bark meant a TV show.
All right. Uh, why is Doordarshan on?
Right, like just by default, I guess, because it's the first TV channel of India after independence. And
Hmm.
since it's on, why don't we, continue watching this channel?
Yeah. Hmm. Tai, thinking of it, Doordarshan first started television in India. But how did TV shows, movies, cinemas, theatre start in the first place? What is the Purvakhyan behind it? Get it?
Yeah, well, the most earliest Purvakhyan I think of when it comes to cinema, to theatre, is Natyashastra. And so, we present Purvakhyan of.
Movies or TV shows?
Guys, let us know how you liked the intro. We're quite excited about it. We had a little collab with Purvakhyan and YC, as in Yukta Chitare. You might be knowing her because she made Purvakhyan poster for us. So, hope you guys enjoyed the intro and stay tuned for the rest of the podcast and the series because it's going to get even more entertaining. Get it? Movies and TV shows. I'm sorry. Continue. This episode, episode 1, is the Purvakhyan of the origin of theatre in India, Natyashastra.
Presenting Bharat a copy of his Natya Ved, comprising selections from the Rig Ved, that is recitation, from the Yajur Ved, acting, from the Sam Ved, music, and from the Atharva Ved, sentiments. God Brahma instructed Bharat to make rules for everything connected with the world of theatre. Bharat obeyed and started spreading these teachings in the ancient world.
Maharshi Bharat wrote down these teachings in the form of a series of question and answer sessions between Bharat and his 100 sons, which are the sages or munis. So, kind of like a press conference. This conference then led to the formation of an encyclopedia on theatre, which acted as a manual for the performers on the stage and became known as the Natyashastra. And this manual still forms the foundation of the classical forms of theatre and dance in India. The instructions of the Natyashastra became established through centuries of practical theatre work. This means Natyashastra kept updating itself according to the times and the styles.
But then comes the question, when exactly was it compiled? It is a pretty ancient work, isn't it?
Yes, the compilation of this dates back most probably to the 2nd century AD. By this kind of compilation, we're talking about the written evidence that we found. Although the tradition formulated in it was much, much, much more older. With the fact that Bharat wrote Natyashastra.
प्रणम्य शिरसा देवौ पितामहमहेश्वरौ नाट्यशास्त्रं प्रवक्ष्यामि ब्रह्मणा यदुदाहृतम्.
Most probably, the written Natyashastra preserves information and practices that had already been conveyed orally. So it's quite ancient.
Exactly. And like most parts of our history, the exact date when Bharat Muni existed, as well as the date when the Natya Shastra was penned down, are unknown and have been shrouded under blankets. We can only get approximate datings of both of these events.
However, there is evidence to the fact that Mahakavi Kalidas had access to the Sanskrit work of Natyashastra. He refers to its author in his lyrical work, Vikramovarsi, and the author, of course, being Bharat. And so there is sufficient evidence to surmise that Bharat existed in about 400 BCE or even earlier. So now we know the story behind Natyashastra, we know when it may have been compiled, but what exactly did it compile?
Nice question, though.
Thank you.
Natya Shastra's 36 chapters give instructions on almost all aspects of theatre and dance. Theatre building, the stage, theory of poetry, the use of the voice, makeup, costume, acting styles, dance techniques, and even theatre criticism. I mean, it's not even left out what happens to the judging of theatre and all the acts. It has even included theatre criticism and the instructions to that. Not to mention, there is also the theory of ras involved. What is this theory, you might ask? Check out the Woman of the Week, episode 3, dedicated to Lata Mangeshkar, to know more about the theory of ras. Never fail to promote.
Never.
Podcast side note for you guys. Woohoo!
The etymology of Natyashastra. The title of the text is composed of two words, Natya and Shastra. The root of the Sanskrit word Natya is Nata, which means act, represent. The word Shastra means precept, rules, manual, compendium, book, or treatise, and is generally used as a suffix in the Indian literature context for knowledge in a defined area of practice. So, Natyashastra, as you can see, is a treatise of acting or representing something. Very layman, but I mean, yeah. End of side note, close bracket. Let's go back to the Purvakhyan of Natyashastra.
With all of this knowledge that was compiled after being orally passed down, there arose an imperative need to have institutions or structures helping in keeping Natya Shastra records. And what better structures than the place of learning itself? Schools. The art schools of Shilalin and Krishashva, mentioned in both the Brahmanas and Kalpasutras as well as Shrot Sutras, may have been associated with the performance of Vedic rituals and storytelling with embedded ethical values. The Vedang texts, such as verse 1.4.29 of Panini Sutras, mention these as well.
So here comes another evidence of the origin of Natyashastra. Natyashastra involves instructions for carrying out any kind of theatrical performances. These also followed for those performances that involved ritual recitation, dialogue, and song representing spiritual themes. Interestingly, these kind of performances fell under ancient Vedic traditions and ancient Vedic cultural systems, as given in 800 to 700 BCE works like the Sanskrit verses of Sthapata Brahmana, which are written in the form of a riddle play between two actors. Very Natyashastra. So from 400 BCE, we jump to more ancient 800 BCE. Natyashastra keeps moving back in time. Let's just go back and back and back to the earliest peaks of ancient Indian civilization.
Oh my. What a plot twist!
What a plot twist indeed.
But again comes the question, why was Natyashastra such a big deal in the first place? Why on earth was theatre so important in ancient India? Well, we have a research study that has quite answered this radical question of ours. A research study done by Malyaban Chattopadhyay titled A Historical Study of Ancient Indian Theatre, Communication in the Light of Natyashastra quotes these lines. Theatre in ancient India was an important medium of communication. There were several dramatists in ancient India like Kalidas and Bhas. They wrote several dramas which made them immortal in the minds of the ancient Indian audience. Richard Solomon, while discussing his typological analysis of inscriptions in Indian epigraphy, has mentioned that in the literary inscriptions we can find the reference of drama. It proves that dramatic performance was popular in ancient India. For that reason, it can be said that drama was an important medium of mass communication of the ancient world, just like inscriptions. Here lies a question. Who made the drama so popular? Here lies the importance of the performers. They had played an important role in popularizing dramas in ancient India. What were their ways of thinking regarding communicating the audience through their performance? How did they try to communicate with the audience?
We cannot get answers of these questions that Arya stated from any inscription because these only had the reference of the dramas and the dramatists, not of those who made the dramas popular, which are the performers. Natyashastra, however, is a text which depicts the mind of the performers for the first time in the history of drama. Natyashastra is one among the famous trio of India, the other two being Kautilya's as in Chanakya's Arthashastra and Vatsayana's Kamshastra. All the three works form the encyclopedia of Indian civilization. While the major subject in Chanakya's work is polity and government, Kamashastra deals with the man's artistic pursuits and accomplishments. Both the works leave no stone unturned in matters concerning body and mind.
Natyashastra exists in two versions, one running to 37 chapters and the other one running 36 chapters. Abhinav Gupta's well-known commentary, Abhinav Bharati, follows the text with 37 chapters, but it itself gives references to variant readings and interpolations.
Though in Panini's reference to the Natyasutras of Shilalin and Krishashwan, Shilalin and Krishashwan being art schools as we discussed earlier, they show that there were some works on dramaturgy even before the 5th century BC. The only earliest available text, however, is Natyashastra. Hence, it can be assumed these variants may have eventually compiled or arisen from Natyashastra itself, resulting in the conclusion that Natyashastra is a compilation of almost the entire knowledge of visual and performing arts of ancient India.
You know, all these works proclaim to the world that Indian education did not stop with scriptures and philosophies. It was so much more than that.
Although the modern Indians seem to completely forget that. They completely forget that education is not only about whether you will become an engineer or doctor or lawyer, but rather a base to try and perfect that which you are passionate to learn. May it be something academic, like becoming a doctor, or it's an art form such as singing or painting or sculpting, anything that you're passionate about.
Exactly. And I guess this is a product of us not being aware of ourselves, being confused about what to do, what our passions actually even are. A reason behind this, I feel, is the education system we still follow from the colonial period. I mean, it has changed quite a lot, but there are still some rigid systems in place that do not allow us to explore our passions anymore.
And I feel like the society around us for the future generations also is not very adaptable. Probably it's one of the products of the colonial education system. But still, I feel like even the society needs to change for it to change even further the education system.
Exactly. This is why the parts of history that have been kept hidden from us or have been kept away from our minds need to be revived. Knowing our history is the biggest step we can take to learning ourselves, because history is basically learning about people who were just like us but lived in the past.
Exactly. Coming back to Purvakhyan, what exactly are these rules of Natyashastra?
Well, in Natyashastra, Bharat states that the audience plays a major role in any kind of play. Since they are able to praise a play or disapprove of it, Bharat's Natyashastra prescribes certain qualifications for the playgoers, i.e., the audience. They should express their reactions either by clapping their hands, or by laughing louder, or by uttering exclamations as the occasion demands.
Wow, wow, wow.
Exactly like that. Finally, I got some fillers from Tau. These forms of encouragement are bound to inspire the actors on the stage to perform their roles to the utmost satisfaction, just like, I was fueled right now.
Right. However, the audience must do these actions bearing in mind that they do not disturb the actual play. Even if the audience is mad and disapproves of the play because of something, they must by all means identify the reason for such failure. Bharat is against sweeping statements, those, without any concrete reasoning behind them. He encouraged competition and that qualified and sympathetic judges must participate. He even mentions how and at what distance the judges must be seated. So he even had a criteria for the judges. He was like, the judges need to be judged.
When it comes to the stage and performers, Bharat believes makeup, costume, and other paraphernalia, that is, stage props, help to communicate the play to the audience. He prescribes specific makeup to everyone entering the stage.
Be you god, queen, servant, you have to put on the prescribed makeup, costume, jewelry, weapons, and all that. It is love or hate at first sight. The very appearance of the character should speak volumes to the audience. Love the god and hate the demon. Love the hero and hate the villain.
Also prescribes a number of details concerning emotion and feeling to be expressed by the actors. He meticulously describes the art of such expressions in stylized tones and gestures suiting the status of the character.
Special directions are also given regarding different kinds of loving and pining heroes. It is no wonder that Sanskrit plays have mostly love as their theme, and that speaks for the immortality of the plays, as love is a surely eternal and everlasting theme.
Maybe that's the reason why Shakespeare's plays are read even today. All the tragedy and comedy are replicated so many times. However, the themes always have something in common: love. It's the most relatable topic, it seems. Even subtle aspects become important in these love themed plays. There are rules about how the times of the day or asides are to be conveyed on the stage. The different types of characters and their characteristics are beautifully explained and organized to guide even the modern day directors, as in this time, 21st century directors and writers, to administer the art of choosing artists and distributing their roles to perfection.
Of course, love is in the air. Although it seems quite a lot of modern day directors have to yet read Natyashastra and thus lack the insight of the art of choosing.
Aside from love in movies and theatres, there is of course love songs. Music is in fact recognized as the food of love all over the world.
And Bharat plays on. He considers music under two heads: instrumental and vocal. The four kinds of instruments: string, percussion, solid, and hollow. In the stringed variety, the orchestra consists of a singer and players of vipanchi, veena, and flute. In the percussion orchestra, the mridanga, panava, and dardura accompany the actors. The trio, instrumental music, and natya must be used like a fire band moving in vast circles. Bharat explains the seven swaras or notes and tells us of the human throat and the veena as their source. There are rules in handling the musical instruments, leave alone playing on them. It is quite amazing to read about the place where orchestra and singers are to be seated.
Bharat shows an innate understanding of the effective use of ras. He explains the 8 emotional states with their corresponding ras. His list comprised of 8 ras, while the Shanta ras was later added by writers, making it Navaras, the 9 ras.
Which you can also get details on in episode 3 of Woman of the Week series Purvakhyan. Bharat also speaks of 33 minor fleeting feelings like bashfulness, anxiety, and indignation. Spontaneous and involuntary reactions like perspiration and tears are also mentioned. Such detail and intricacy. A detailed treatment of Sanskrit prosody makes the work interesting to poets and writers, and of course to us readers.
And what is interesting is that Maharshi Bharat had a rule that discouraged the performance of tragedy on the stage.
Oh,
Yeah, that is quite interesting. But this is not to say that a play containing a tragic episode was discouraged, but a story ending on a tragic note was discouraged. Bhasa broke such a rule, for he wrote tragedies too.
that's why we probably do not know his name, but we know Kalidas. So, I guess, yeah, good for Bhas. Indian drama from the earliest times was shaped by Bharat's Natyashastra. Not only were its rules strictly followed by eminent classical dramatists whose plays were performed in temples and palaces, but were also obeyed to the core in the common man's theatre. The work remained a source book for scholars and writers of drama and inspired several other treatises.
Today, it is a different story. The more was the work revered and obeyed, the quicker it was lost. With the arrival of the British, our Indian theatres underwent a dramatic change, pun not intended. Influenced by European theatres, our Indian theatres too are changing. Is this what we call change with the times? Yet, Bharat's Natya Shastra clears all our doubts about how dance and drama were performed in our country of the pre-colonial era, enjoying patronage and popularity. While women in England had to wait till Charles II came back to power in somewhere 1660, and allowed them to perform on stage, it is really heartening to note that in our country, female roles were performed by women in those days of yore. Thanks is owed to Bharat for giving importance to women to perform on a par with men.
So much so that Bharatnatyam, an ancient Indian classical dance form, was solely performed by women for the gods. Men were usually not seen fit enough to carry the devotion and essence that Bharatnatyam portrays for the gods and goddesses. So, very, very few, very well trained men were allowed to perform Bharatnatyam, whereas almost all and every woman that wished to did so.
It is truly a surreal compilation of art, of theatre, of love. Get it?
Arya, I hope you do not consider your puns as comedy.
Please, they are.
If your puns were ever in a movie or TV show or sitcom or whatever, only Yuki would laugh.
That's so mean. Yuki has better taste in everything than you.
That's because I raised him. First, go and write the second episode of the movies and TV show series of Purvakhyan and then come and give your reasons.
Zati, only because you made a valid point and I have nothing else to say about it.
Whatever. Go. Bye. And you guys, the listeners, make sure you subscribe to Purvakhyan and press the like button and share it, please, so the word of Bharatiya cinema and its origins spreads as far as possible.
We can assure you, learning about Indian theatre, it really is very interesting. And of course, entertaining. So, subscribe to our channel for more of Purvakhyan of Indian theatre and cinema. Bye. Meet you in the next episode. Tuk tuk doo doo.